very much.
Could I invite Shayne McLaren for Kartsport Canterbury? Oh, this has just been loaded separately into the hub.
Thanks, everybody. Look, my submission is relatively short and direct, so I'll just read quickly through it. I'm submitting in relation to an existing approved funding event, which is for the relocation of the go-kart track from Hallsville to our new location. Now, back in 2013, an amount of $3.5 million was deemed a fair cost of that relocation, and it was ratified in 2016. Now, since obviously then there's been significant increases in costs attributed to this sort of activity and construction, and what we're asking for as a club is for the council to give some consideration to bringing that same value back to this amount, and ensuring that we are actually in a position, should we get a resource consent approved, that we can actually physically relocate. That's the essence of what we're asking for. I suppose in reality it would be the same as the council costing a major facility development in 2013 and in 2020 or 21 trying to construct that facility for the same budget that they originally costed that. That's where we're at. Okay. So relatively simple.
Vicky.
The agreement that was signed in 2016 did not say inflation adjusted, did it?
No, and I think that was probably due to the fact that there was an expectation this thing would be resolved relatively quickly.
Because it had to be resolved relatively quickly. Yes.
So
it was deliberately not inflation adjusted.
So the reality we have today is we're sitting here in 2019 with the potential for resource consent this year, but with a spend in probably 2020-21 from the club's perspective. And so we've eroded significantly the value and our ability to actually relocate as a result of that. If it had been resolved within a tight time frame, which we all had desired at the time, and I apologise I wasn't part of the club at that point in time, then we probably wouldn't be in this situation now. Absolutely. Absolutely. I accept that.
Yanni and Aaron.
Thanks. Just for those of us that were here when this all came up originally, just some concern over the length of time taken to get an alternative location and a consent. Can you just, I think you just touched on it briefly in that last response, but can you just give us a high level kind of picture where things have got to in terms of an alternative location and the consenting process?
As we stand today?
Yeah, as we stand today.
Yeah, so we have a resource consent that's been lodged. It was lodged in 2017 from memory. It's gone through a number of reviews. There's a lot of work that was done to get specialists, which are very few in some of these very specific areas, to create documents which supported and assessed our impact on the environment. One being bird life at the Isaac Wildlife Trust. Our lot around ECAN and meeting ECAN requirements around groundwater effects, and obviously impact on residents, a lot of noise-related activities. We only learnt, late last year, in November, that there was a significant amount of resistance at our proposed new location, and that was related to reverse sensitivity, which nobody had actually understood up until that point in time. So we've worked very closely, and we have a huge amount of respect for the council people that were working on this project with us, because they've worked very diligently for a long period of time to help us through this. We now understand the reason that the resistance exists. We are working actively with those parties to ensure that we can actually get a resource consent approved and that we have a minimal amount of resistance to that. So we are working with the council and one of the gun clubs there to ensure that we understand their needs and put in the protections they're looking for, which is exclusively around the reverse sensitivity, us complaining about them. Okay. Yeah, so at the moment, I had a call with the council yesterday. We are waiting for the council's lawyers to come back with a statement of fact relating to what covenants or protections we can put in place in the resource consent, which create a barrier for reverse sensitivity complaints, which will then go to those associated parties, and they will go through. And our ultimate goal is that we have an unopposed resource consent from our local neighbours. Okay. in order that we can actually get a resource consent and take action and execute on it, as opposed to end up in environment court for years, which is what was threatened previously from some of these parties. So it's not an easy path, as you can appreciate, trying to establish a motorsport facility in this day and age. So we're trying to overcome some of those barriers, which has created a delay. So we're currently sitting in motor limbo. Our desire is in the next 4 to 6 weeks to overcome that and get that resource consent activated again, or modified as we need to. We've modified our location within that quarry site slightly that was proposed, in order that we can create a greater barrier between us and them, as one of the mitigants that we're looking at.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'll be careful not to say anything too positive this time, because I got myself in trouble last time, because your new site's in the ward that I represent, and so have heard from all your neighbours.
Yeah.
And are you looking for any other sites? And the question that's come back from some people is, why are you not in with where the racing is down Pound Road and stuff for Ruapuna and things, and coming under there?
So I've actually met with Ruapuna as to see whether it was a feasible option whilst we were going through this process. What happened was, under their current noise restraints, we couldn't even operate. We couldn't exist, because we would impede their ability to exist, given the number of days that they're allowed to create noise. And they also had no practical land areas available also. We actually had a look at what was available around that location. There is a quarry site over their back perimeter, which is in private ownership at the moment. I think they have a first right of refusal to purchase if it ever comes up. This will add probably tens of years to any change, given what we've experienced to date and getting as far as we are.
Okay, so then my other question would be, sorry, what's your dB rating on a cart? What's the volume at the side of the track?
I can't guarantee what that is. I think it's
You over 95?
It is 95 from memory, yes.
Right, okay. So that's that was the limit of what you're allowed in a car on the street. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's loud, but so there's another site on Johns Road which is owned by ECAN. Have you spoke to them about leasing any land?
No, look, the council would actually be very proactive and actually looking for these alternate locations, or looking at locations in general, which again we really appreciated. And they've taken a lot of the initiative in identifying the sites and doing the studies. As obviously it was in everyone's best interest for us to relocate. So
the only reason I suggest that one is that it's a block from Lake Roto-Kahatu, so you've got the volume of the jet ski racing there, which everyone in the neighbourhood's used to anyway, because we're all under a flight contour line.
Yeah, and look, the reality is we'd be adjacent to 4 gun clubs who can shoot 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
We're under the flight path. We are within probably the most appropriate environment we could be within the quarry. There's probably 6 operational quarries around us. So our view is we probably couldn't find a better location. And obviously the money that the council has spent on our behalf to get us to this point in time would go back to the drawing board all over again. And like I say, it would add probably tens of years to an alternate site.
Okay.
Our other option is we stay where we are, which we accept is not practical.
Well, it wouldn't be acceptable today, you know. I mean, you're only there because somebody signed a lease that was way too long.
Yeah, to 2054 from memory. So like I say, the reality...
Yeah, it was another council. We inherited it.
Correct.
But we do have the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Act, and I just wondered whether that was a possibility at this point.
So look, we're open to any suggestions, but every time we've looked and we've talked to people, it feels like this is the most appropriate location around the most appropriate neighbours. And like I say, we're working through those issues those neighbours have, which is only about...
It's about the wildlife reserve, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's actually the gun clubs are concerned about us complaining about them, and they have a high risk of being shut down as a result.
Agreed now?
No, so Isaac's a neighbour that's quite distant from where we are, and the reality is Isaac's have told the council that no matter what we do, they won't entertain us being anywhere in that vicinity, whether it's a kilometre down in the quarry.
So it's going to go to court anyway?
Well, it depends if Isaac's choose to take that path or not, and Isaac's to take it to court will have to find that our experts have and their assessments have been incorrect, is my understanding. So it's quite a long path for Isaac's to actually do that. And again, you know, the Isaac's Wildlife Trust is in their own working quarry, and there are 4 gun clubs between us and Isaac's.
Yeah.
You know, and we've moved another 200 metres away from Isaac's and the gun clubs to try and remediate some of those concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'd say that the submission is practically just that. We get to a resource consent stage, and the reality is that the funding we have today has probably been eroded by $500,000 based on the cost of construction and change. And again, I appreciate the fact there was a fixed amount at that point in time, but there was an expectation it probably wouldn't take 7, 8, 9, 10 years to actually achieve that result. So it's a practicality to be able to do it.
Very quick.
Thanks, Shayne. It sounds like you're a bit stuck, really. You were saying that you've talked to your neighbours and out where you're going to move. Have you been having communication with the people around you at the moment where you are currently?
There's a clear understanding of the local Hallsville residents' position on the Kart Club, which, look, some of them they've approached us and they're quite happy with us being there, but we know there's a general unease with us being there, and there's a huge amount of land that can't be developed as a result of us being there.
Right.
There's also some land that has been developed that probably shouldn't have been,
right,
given that there was an assumption made that we were highly likely to relocate. So we accept there's an absolute need for us to go,
yeah,
to take those concerns away, and we're just trying to be responsible citizens at the same time and make sure we do move beyond, but we also need to be able to move beyond practically.
And are you giving them any indication of a timeline?
I got approached by the media last week and I gave them an indication of how long we are hoping our resource consent will take, and the fact that it's an 18-month to 2-year cycle to build a facility and relocate, and that's the expectation that's always been out there.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.